Hello, I'm Paul, and welcome back to B Movie Dreamer. Yes, I'm the same Paul who looked like Santa in a way, with the big Santa beard in episode 9. This is episode 10. Um, you know, um, Years ago, and for many years, my family, especially my immediate family, my kids, my wife, they've always joked about, maybe I could be a Santa at a mall or at parties or things like that. And the reason they said that was because I started going gray at 29. What do you got to do? Um, and these days, for, I don't know, a couple decades now, the Santas have pretty much gone from fake beards and fake hair to real beards and real hair. And so I always thought, maybe someday, that kind of thing. But now I generally try to keep my hair short and my beard trimmed as well. And so I thought, you know what? I know my hair's getting thinner. I'm getting older. Am I still able to grow it? So I did an experiment for 5 months, which led up to episode 9. And, well, sure enough, I did find out that I have no trouble growing it. And I was even thinking about maybe something this Christmas, but as it turns out, the Christmas Santa Claus business has kind of died down a little bit because of the pandemic last year. They weren't really doing that kind of thing. Now, some places are starting to do it again this year, but not quite as many as used to. And most of those guys are professionals. They go to school, if you didn't know that, but also because of the pandemic and because of places being closed for many months at a time, a lot of the smaller businesses, they closed up. They couldn't take the knot in business. And now these malls are like half empty. It's a real shame, but that's kind of what's been going on. But so anyway, I decided to cut my hair again and get it back to my normal, and perhaps another time, because who knows? I could always need a Santa Claus in a future movie endeavor. You never know. And the other thing I noticed, though, it's a commitment to keep your hair long and your beard long and keep everything trimmed as much as possible if you're looking for that look. And it is a commitment. And the reason I bring that up even is because I am following my commitment for making B-movie productions, and I hope you appreciate the labor that goes into it, how long it takes, and just the whole idea of just following your passion and keep on making those B-movie productions. And so enough of that, let's get started. Okay, it's time for my movie update of Space Spider. I'm pleased to say to all of you, but for me especially, that the workshop is 100% complete. I think the last time I talked to you, I was close. It was about 95% complete, and it's just a big help to have things where they need to be, so you can kind of move around without bumping into everything, at least in my case. So that's a big help. Of course, if you can have a great big workshop, that's just tremendous, but I'm assuming that people like us who do it for a hobby, if we had a giant, tremendously large workshop, we'd probably be doing this professionally, which I know a lot of us would like to do. But sometimes you have to just do the best you can with what you have. My new studio is simply the size of a bedroom, and we just have to use what we have. That's the trick to it all. And another thing I wanted to point out too was And now again, it's been a while in between episodes. I try to make them quicker. Life tends to get in the way. When it's your hobby or something you just really want to try to do while you're living your life, whether it is you're working or you have health issues or you have family matters or occasionally a surprise or two, good or bad, you do have to figure out a way how to get some things in there just for your own sanity, for my own sanity. But I am happy to say that the workshop is finally completed, and I can just have the freedom now to go ahead and do what I need to do and do what I want to do. Our last episode, I showed you a few pics of the 3 different layers it took of paper mache to put on and construct our egg, our giant space spider egg. We used a balloon for the inside, so we had something to wrap the paper mache around. And now I'm going to show you a few pics of the 2 layers of paint that I put on the egg, and what happened after the second layer dried. We had a bit of a surprise, and wasn't necessarily a good one, but let me show you what happened. Here we go. So here's the first layer of paint. Looked pretty good. Then the second layer of paint was applied, and I let that dry for 24 hours. And after that, there was quite a surprise, and let me show you the pictures and you can see exactly what that surprise was. So here we see a small dent making it look like the Death Star. Then a long, narrow, sunken in kind of dent. And then this is how they look together. And then the knob on the end from the balloon tied together. And finally the other side with some dents on top. Alright, well, why the dents and the sunken in areas? Honestly, I'm not really sure. But thinking about it, we had the balloon and we put a layer of paper mache on it, let it dry, put another layer of paper mache on it, let it dry, put another layer of paper mache on it, let it dry, sanded it like I told you before, and everything seemed fine. So it only leaves me with the paint. Perhaps the paint weighs more than I ever thought it would. I did it by hand. I did not spray paint it. I was working inside when I had to do that, so I didn't really have the opportunity to go outside and just spray paint it. It would have been easier, I guess, but maybe even later, perhaps. I don't know. Maybe the 3 layers of paper mache just weren't solid enough to take that paint. But so you're left with the problem. I'm left with a problem. So I'm not going to dismiss it, throw it out, and start over again. Why? Well, low budget, you have to keep going. You have to figure out possible solutions. So what I ended up doing was I cut a hole. I cut a hole where the little knob was. That was the inside of when you tied the balloon. You filled the balloon up with air. You tied it together, and then it had that little end, and that's what that little knob was. So I cut there, and I cut it open. And of course, the balloon had lost its air, months ago. And so what I tried to do is I made the hole large enough for my hand and the arm, and I tried to push out the dents as much as I possibly could. I tried to reach as far as I could. Couldn't quite reach as far as I needed to, so I used like a stick, like a yardstick, and help push out some of these dents. So at least that was the plan, and that was the idea. So all in all, it still has a few little trouble spots, but here's what it ended up looking like. Okay, so now with a we'll say a non-perfect egg, but who knows what the eggs look like on the moon. It could easily look like the egg we made. And see, you have to go with those kind of things, all right? You only know this because that's what I'm telling you. It may not have even crossed your mind when you know it comes out later. But what I did was I rotated the egg in such a way that I found the best spot possible with no dents. And on it, if you remember from episode 9, I said I was going to paint some different kind of markings on the egg because I just thought, well, this is an egg from space. It's actually from the moon. Who knew? You know, spider eggs on the moon. Who knows what they look like? Why couldn't they look like they have some markings on it? So I did that, and I will show you a picture of that right now. So here you can see the markings, and we also thought we would paint some cracks on this egg to hide any imperfections on the outer shell. So lastly, in the film, there's going to be a person in a suit, and he's going to be carrying the egg briefly from the moon's surface into the spaceship. And where we cut the hole, he'll have his gloved hand over that, and we will shoot from the angle that it best looks as far as non-dense and things like that. And it's a quick shot anyway, but we want to do that kind of a thing, especially in B-movie, but also in even a regular movie. You just want to, I said this many times before, any way you can fool the camera, and it's of course, especially to your advantage, that's what you want to do. So that's exactly what we will attempt to do when the time comes. The third and final piece of work I was able to squeeze out from this hectic month or so was working on the first spider. Now, if you recall, there is only one spider, but I have to make 4 spiders because each time the spider cocoons itself, when it comes out of that cocoon, it has doubled in size. So it will double in size each and every one of those times. And if you recall this, we took the base from a skeletal type of Halloween prop or whatever it wanted to be used for, and I had showed you a clipping of the whole thing, I guess, but I'll show you now just a quick shot of part of it, because you got to start somewhere, so we'll start on the one side. And what I'll do is I will continue to build this up into where it really looks like a spider that if you would be scared of if you were scared of spiders. I find out most people are, and it's one of the reasons I picked this kind of a thing to do. But let me show you. Let me just refresh your memory with this quick pick. So the first thing I wanted to do was try to figure out and make the hair for the legs of the spider. Most people don't like spiders, and most people really don't like spiders. They're even more scarier if they're the hairy type of spider. So that's there's three. Let's see. There's three tools that I'm going to use for this. Nice and simple. And I'll show you a picture of that right now. All right, how to make hair for the spider. What could I think of? So what I thought was the base of the skeletal spider that we're going to use is plastic. So I found a piece of plastic because I wanted to test it first. I didn't want to actually test it on the spider itself. So I got a piece of plastic, and I got the Elmer's glue, and I I I thought of cotton balls. I thought, well, cotton balls. I like that kind of substance. That might be able to do something with that, but it can't really be cotton balls. So what that stuff's really made out of is it's called fiber fill, and you can get bags of it. So I went and and bought a bag, and then I put some Elmer's glue on the piece of plastic, and then I tore off a small piece of fiber fill, and I placed it on the glue and pressed it down a little bit and just let it dry. It looks like in this business, of all the things that I'm trying to do, we're always letting something dry. Okay, so I let it dry. And then after it dried, I actually got outside this time. I took it outside and I used the spray paint, and I spray painted the fiber fill over the plastic. So then, of course, again, I let that dry. And so what I noticed was after it dried, it kind of shrunk it just a little bit, which is nice because it seemed like a coarse kind of a hair, and it seemed like it was attached to, it would be attached to the leg when I did do it better. So I thought, well, this is great, and I'll show you a picture of that. So I was pleased with the outcome of that test, and now the next thing to do was to try one of the spider legs. So I put some rubber gloves on just because I didn't want to get completely all glued up, and I got Elmer's glue and I kind of put it up and down, slid it up and down the leg, and then I had already pulled out tufts of fiber fill, and I placed it around the leg, and I held it and pushed it and pressed it, and I let it be like that. And again, I let it dry. And I did the same thing with part of its hind quarters, the spider's hind quarters, and so I let that dry. So here are a couple of quick pics of what that looked like. And when we paint it, the fiber should shrink a bit, giving us that hairy spider look that I'm after. I'm going to finish this episode with a new segment. I talked about it in last episode. I'm going to be randomly picking some B movies from the past, and I'm going to do an all positive review of some of the special moments that I find and I have found in these films. I told you before, I'm not really into the negative. There's just no point in it. Everybody's doing their best here, especially on an amateur level. Now these aren't amateurs, but they are B movies, and they're a whole lot of fun. And if you're watching this channel, you probably have seen a lot of these films before. If for some reason you haven't, I won't spoil anything for you, but hopefully you'll enjoy it. Hopefully you'll start to see what makes a B movie so special. And so anyway, this new segment is called B Movies from the Past. So today's B movie from the past is The Land That Time Forgot, 1975. Now, before I get started, it's nice to point out that a lot of your mainstream movies that are like this, which is adventure, fantasy, sci-fi, even horror, that kind of thing, they seem to have a lot of merchandise tie-ins, whether it's toys, books, posters, you name it, you've seen it, I'm sure. However, a lot of your B films generally did not have too much merchandise. They may have had a poster perhaps, and if they did, it was they didn't do a lot of them because it costs money, and so they're hard to find, and a lot of times it's based off a book, which in this case it was. So it's really hard to find things, and most of the times when I do this segment, there may just be a DVD or a Blu-ray or something like that that I'll be able to show you. But since this is one of my all-time favorite B movies, I'm always on the lookout for more things. So I just wanted to let you know that, and I'll show you just a few of the things that I have right now. So obviously what you're looking at right now is the 1975 poster from The Land That Time Forgot. I did have one before that was mounted and glass framed, which I try to do with most of my posters. Someone wanted it really badly, so I was able to make that happen, and I know a guy who was able to get me another one because I really need it for my collection for sure, since it's one of my favorites. It's neat. It's very well done illustration wise, as you can see, and I also like the little squares that they have for the actors, and they even put them in black and white where the rest of it is in color. So that's kind of neat. I have the book. It was originally based on an Edgar Rice Burroughs novel from 1918, and it's a really nice book that they made when they made the film. And also, I have a picture in the frame. It's signed by the star, Doug McClure. Some good friends of mine gave me that as a present one time. It's fantastic. And let's see, I also have, as you're seeing, the Blu-ray. This has some special footage on it if you're able to pick one of those up. And I even have a 1975 Marvel comic book, which was kind of neat. It's a one-shot and it's filled with a lot of extras. And I also have a Super 8 millimeter trailer. So I was 13 when this came out, and it just so happened that one of the things that I loved two things while growing up as a child, into my teens as well. I always loved dinosaurs, and I always loved submarines. It's just ironic that this had both. So it's like I couldn't have not liked it. So basically, Edgar Rice Burroughs was the original author, and of course they made a movie of it. Now it's technically a British film. It's made by a British director, British producer. It does have an American star, Doug McClure. There's many people in this, and it's actually one of four. It's sort of like a series. They never really said it was, but it is, because all four were done by the same director, Kevin Connor, the same producer, John Dark, and all four also had Doug McClure in it, who is one of my favorite B-movie actors. Let's see. What else can I tell you about this? Well, I'll just get into the general story. Now, it's 46 years old, so I still will try not to spoil it for you in case you have not seen it. But takes place during World War I. Now, it's not a war film, but that's when it starts and that's when it takes place. And there's a sub that is in the ocean. Of course, it's in the ocean, and it fires two torpedoes into a British vessel carrying many different things, some of which include many passengers, and it sinks the ship. And basically, you think, mostly everyone dies, and mostly everyone did die. But there were a few survivors in two rowboats, and as they were rolling around in the fog and just trying to survive and see what they could do, there wasn't much to do. It just so happens that the sub, for various reasons, surfaces, and they hear it, and they get close, and they see it. So the people in the sub, they don't realize that there's survivors up top. So basically, they get out of the rowboats, they're able to get onto the sub, they're able to take over the sub by surprise, and then try to get to a safe place where they can get back home. As it turns out, there's a flip-flop in the action, and the Germans take back the sub, and now they're kind of in trouble. And then some more flip-flopping goes on, and it sounds like it could be boring, but it's not. It happens quickly. And so basically, they're all on this ship, and they're lost, and they don't know what to do, when suddenly they come upon this mountainous structure in the middle of the ocean, and there's no way really in, but they figure they have a sub, so maybe there's a way under. And sure enough, there is, and they go under, and they pop up to the surface, and what they do is they discover that they have found a small piece of land that has been untouched by the world. It's not on any charts. It's that kind of thing. There's been similar plot lines throughout history of this kind of fantasy, and of course, it's been untouched by time. So it has dinosaurs, all kinds of really neat things, and like I said, if you get the Blu-ray, it's not a lot, but it has enough. It has a little bit of behind the scenes in it. And to give you an idea, see, because I dislike CGI so much, I mean, I like it a little, as you know. If you've followed this channel for a while, you understand what I like and what I don't like. But I really, really like practical effects. I know sometimes, especially today, they may look cheesy to you because you're just used to this perfection that CGI has come out with, this smoothness. It's almost unrealistic at times. It just depends on how much they mix it with practical effects, if they do at all. But anyway, so to give you an idea, there's pterodactyls in this, and I love pterodactyls. And they may not move much, okay, but they fly, and they, if you watch the behind the scenes, they tell you that they're 32 feet long. Their wingspan. So they built everything. They built the land, they built the volcano, the miniatures, the real things, whatever it might happen to be. It was a real submarine. So that's kind of where it all starts to happen, and they get off of the land. They get off of the sub and they get onto the land, and they're just trying to, first of all, survive. They can figure out where they could be, later, but they have to try to get along so they can survive, and they're counting on each other to do that. Getting back to us for just a second, when I said that this was sort of like one in a series of four, I forgot to mention that the amount of speed and craftsmanship that they were able to do with these movies. It's not like they rushed them. It's just that they did work on it a long time, especially this one, before it ever came out. But in the meantime, after that, once they got going, this one came out in '75, and then the second one, which was At the Earth's Core, came out in 1976, and then in '77, it was the People That Time Forgot, which is actually the sequel, again written by Edgar Rice Burroughs. And then the fourth one in 1978, there was, let's see, Warlords from Atlantis. Now, Edgar Rice Burroughs didn't write that one, but again, Kevin Connor directed, Kevin Connor directed, John Dark produced, and again, Doug McClure was in that. But the practical effects are just amazing, and they didn't. Most of you know what stop motion is. I don't know if we've ever talked too much about that. Ray Harryhausen was really the big guy, Willis O'Brien as well. But he did a lot of the, he did all of the the Sinbad movie, monsters and different things, Jason and the Argonauts, where there were, there's just so many incredible skeleton fights and things like that. But they didn't even have stop motion in this. They chose to go the route where we're just going to build it, and we're going to make it move as best we can. And there's all different ways to do that. I won't go into that. But I don't know. It makes it a little fun. We like to say that we like this particular film. It has a little cheese in it, which means it's a little cheesy at times. But again, it's fun. It's hard to describe the magic, in a sense, that makes a B movie. And I have tried on this channel before to say that. And you know what? You may disagree with me on CGI. You may love it and hate all this practical stuff, but that's okay. It's not a real big deal. I try not to dwell in the negative. You could like what you like, so let me try to think. Yeah, the one thing I really wanted to say about this, because I don't want to say too much about it, except that there's lots of explosions. There's the weapons that they're using, mainly from the Germans, or from handmade stuff, because there's actually they meet people who are from there, and they're kind of like, best way I can describe it is like cavemen, cavewomen type of people in this. So it's a real lot of fun. And what I wanted to say was, as far as practical effects, as far as amateur filmmaking and amateur B movie making, when we were fortunate enough to show our second film, Die Snapper Die, at Longwood Gardens that time, it was what it was. People tend to laugh at some of these B movies, and that's okay. They're all played straight, and, well, the ones that are sci-fi or they're adventure, fantasy, and that's okay, because sometimes it really works. It really helps the film. But we showed it at Longwood, and afterwards, now there's always going to be people, because the audience was filled with friends and family, okay, co-workers, that kind of thing, and generally most people are going to be nice, even if they thought it stunk. They're going to say, hey, you know what, good job, way to go. And I've had two and this is important, I've had two compliments that really are important to me. The one was by an independent filmmaker who actually used professional equipment and actually has made several shorts. And this person came up to me and congratulated us, and just for the simple fact that we wrote a script completely original. Everything we did in the film was original, even music. We did it all. And they said, the fact that you did all of that, and you went and had a beginning, a middle, and an end, and you finished the movie, that is what really makes it special. And I get what she's trying to say, because there's so many movies. People don't realize is, for as many movies that come out, there's probably just as many that never make it. They never get finished. There's lots of different reasons why. A lot of it's money. But the other compliment was, a person said to me, they said, we have all these past couple decades, probably since the mid-90s is when CGI really became popular. It started before then, but it really became popular, and everybody was using it, and now everybody's using it all the time. It's kind of like, oh, well, we have to use it, and at least that's what some of the studios say. So anyway, what they're saying is, after seeing, it's almost perfection anymore. They can do anything they want to do, and when you watch it a lot, say somebody could be in the middle of an explosion, and there's all this debris and all these, maybe there's bullets, maybe there's other things just flying around, vehicles, whatever it is, and sometimes, you know, the person's falling and they're twisting and they're turning, and there's not one piece of debris that happens to hit them. They just manage to get by it all. And to be frank, it's, you know, it's a little unrealistic. And I realize that some of these superhero movies, I guess you have to suspend disbelief, of course, because they're comic books. They're superheroes from comic books. They don't really exist. So I guess me saying it's unrealistic, it seems like it's playing against what I'm saying, but I think you can understand what I'm trying to say. And what this person said to me was, after a couple of decades now of watching nothing but perfection through these CGI things, they said that watching our film was, the word was refreshing. It was more realistic. It was fair. It was real. It wasn't perfect. It was just a bunch of people who were trying to work hard together and pulled this off and had a good time, and then we got to share it with our friends and with our relatives and just other people who enjoy making films. And it's just, again, it's a great compliment. And yeah, there are plenty of mainstream films too that you know, they can look gritty and they can look realistic, and there's that too. But again, as we're focusing more on B films, it was just a really terrific compliment. And to take that first compliment, just to give you a little bit of confidence, just even if it's short, it's okay. Just do it, work on it, get it done. And like I always say in almost every episode, make sure you're having fun. Because if you're not, then I don't know why you're doing it. I get it if you're doing it for a living. Sometimes it's not always fun because then it becomes work. And it's not like it's not work here, but you're doing it for just the pleasure of doing it. So I guess we'll just stop that there. So this wraps up the new segment for episode 10. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope it's something. I hope you'll get something out of that. I know I do every time I watch it. There's just certain things I appreciate all the time. Like, I'm sure there's many movies that you watch over and over again, and you pick up something new, or you can just appreciate it. Or if you do make films, it's something. It teaches you how to do some things. Now, I won't have the new segment in episode 11. I will have it in 12, though. I'll keep going with that. But next segment, I will do what I promised several segments back. If you remember, several segments back, I did a behind-the-scenes look of our first movie, The Depths of Destruction. I showed you some special effects scenes mostly, and gave you a little bit of behind-the-scenes action. So on our second film, Die, Snap or Die, which was over twice the length of our first film, we do have a lot more special effects, and we have a lot more behind-the-scenes action shots and stories, of course, to show you. So so we'll do that next time, episode 11. And again, in the meantime, I will continue to work on Space Spider, so I have, of course, more to show you, more to tell you about in episode 11 as well. I hope you did enjoy the show, and again, sorry it took so long getting out, but I'm going to keep working on it. And you know, like you said, life gets in the way, but you know what, you just gotta keep going through it. And one of the big reasons I even do this is simply because hopefully, A, you get something out of it, you enjoy it, and B, it pushes me, it gives me my own little deadline to keep going on the movie. It's easy to get lazy. Once you stop doing these things, then you're just going to stop completely, and nothing's ever going to get done. And you'll regret it someday if this is really one of your passions. So again, I hope you enjoyed this episode, and look forward to seeing you next time. Goodbye.